I was met with we had a pride booth one year, and a gentleman came up to me and was giving me a real hard time about being gay, because he was supposedly one of those reformed gays who had become straight. And he made the comment, and this was several years ago, that how could I live with him, how could I live with Chris and us not be married? And I was like, because the state of Georgia won't let me get, what kind of question was that? So he was trying to apply the conservative straight couple sins onto our community. And then it didn't make sense. And that's, I think, a lot of the things that are wrong with mainstream churches. They want to apply their straight couple ideas and philosophies to a system that won't allow for any correction. So if you tell a community, well, you should get married, okay, and now you have no system for that, then you're automatically dooming by your dogma this relationship out, regardless of whether it's gay or straight. You've got us doomed because we can't get married. The Supreme Court ruling now allows for that argument to be not only more valid for them, but does genuinely give us a way of lining up to mainstream culture.
We were actually married in Washington, D.C., and we actually got married on the Capitol. And the ruling, it's like a relief, a big weight lifted off of your shoulders. There's a lot more things that you can do. I don't have to, for instance, we were worried about my vehicle being transferred into her name as well if I were to ever pass away, because my family they wouldn't take it, they would actually give it to her. But you know, it's something you worry about, and now you don't have to do that, because with marriage, you pretty much share everything unless there's a prenup, which there's not. So, you know, my vehicle would go to her, my possessions, things like that that you worry about, that you want them to be able to have and keep and live the rest of their lives out if anything were to happen to you.
We definitely want to have little ones, and we talk about it all the time. This ruling is going to make it something that's going to make it way more possible for us, because of the laws that were in place before. It would have been really difficult for us to have an adoption, especially a second parent adoption, because you have to be married in the state of Georgia to have a second parent adoption. And if your marriage is not recognized, then most judges won't allow that. So, and if they do, it's technically illegal. So we now can have a child here, and that child can have both of our names on the birth certificate, which wouldn't have been able to happen before this ruling.
It makes a lot of sense to me that marriage was kind of the starting point for this modern movement. And what I think we look for going forward is a lot of hard work on laws pertaining to housing and employment, the civil rights as far as those go. Here in Georgia, as well as I think 6 other states, it's still legal to be fired or kicked out of your home just for being gay. And I don't think a lot of people know that. And it's not as glamorous as the marriage fight was, which I think is part of why that was a good one to go first. But it's definitely going to be something that we need to get done to provide more of the security that we've been looking for. Well, I was going up to Washington, D.C., to the Supreme Court to watch the marriage cases, the oral arguments for the marriage cases. I got there on Thursday, and Friday we went down to the court to check things out, and the line had already started to wait for the Supreme Court. So we ran back to the place where we were staying and grabbed our camping chairs and some energy bars and bottles of water and set up camp. The first full day of camping was electric. Everyone was really excited. People were coming in and gathering. The line had started. Folks were calling their friends, hey, come on down. People were bringing pizza and sodas, and then about 2 days later, we were getting kind of tired and stinky. I was actually I was online, SCOTUS blog, is the website of a group of people that follow all of the court cases with the Supreme Court, and I was refreshing their live blog. They had announced they were at the end of the session, and they were announcing the cases that were left, and they got to this was the first one on that Friday, and just like pretty much everyone that I was in contact, it just burst into tears. It was just there was so much emotion that built up from the Prop 8 case forward, that it was just a culmination of just years and years of work, and we had gotten what we asked for.
People are often seen as secondhand citizens when they're in the LGBT community. This, for me personally, has allowed me to speak more openly about my relationship, speak more openly about my husband, and has allowed people to contact us on a more secular note, wanting to get married, trying to find a place or a venue that will allow them to do so, and at the same time is giving us an opportunity to minister to them and to let them know that not only has the Supreme Court supported them, but we believe that God supports them too. I know that I've been taught many things in my life that never really felt quite right from my perspective, but I chose not to question. But as I've gotten older and I've seen a movement amongst the LGBT community, I've discovered that there are lots of churches, communities of faith that are open and welcoming for all people, that truly take the idea of no judgment, but rather, what can we do to foster your relationship with God? And that's all we want to do. We want to just foster our relationship with God. Our motto here is doing life in community with Christ. And we just want to do that. We don't want to tell people that they're good or they're bad or anything like that. We don't want to make those judgments, and we want them to know that God's love is for everybody. When you look at our youth today, they haven't been ingrained necessarily with the same biases or the same bigotries as we were brought up in. And so you find a much more accepting community amongst young people. I hope that what we're seeing is that in context, people are acting maturely, acting professionally, that they are accepting with the understanding that they don't have to agree. I don't want personally for people to agree with everything that I believe. I just want people to accept the fact that I'm human and I love and I hurt, and that I have a relationship with God, and that is okay.
We are everyone's favorite lesbian couple. We've
Not cocky at all.
being in school, we meet a lot of people who are a little bit younger, and so they kind of looked up to us, and we're like the stable relationship that a lot of our friends aspire to be, and it's pretty cool. It's very gratifying when you feel like, for me, I felt like she was the one, and I felt crazy to think that I had found a soulmate, but it was like when other people could see that in our relationship, it was, it was reassuring to know that, well, we must be the legit if everyone else can see it too. So
It feels like breathing. I know that sounds so like weird or cliche, but you get to just exhale and inhale and live every day with this person and not have any worries with them, at least, And you know that you can tackle anything that this world throws at you together. To marry the love of your life, the person that you really care about, can't seem to live without, it was beautiful.